Welcome to the Heal with Kelly podcast. I'm Kelly Noonan-Gorse, and every week I speak to the leading doctors, healers, spiritual teachers, and scientists to find out what is truly possible when it comes to healing. I also interview real people with extraordinary healing stories. My philosophy is, what's possible for one is possible for all. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful journey of remembering our divine nature and tapping into the truths that shall set us free. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Heal with Kelly podcast. Today I have the beautiful Katie Brindle as a guest. She is a UK-born entrepreneur, beauty and well-being expert, and best-selling author who has made a huge contribution to the field of holistic well-being. She's also the host of the popular and uplifting podcast, Own Your Health, which I was a guest on a few, maybe months ago. In 2002, Katie established her own private clinic specializing in Asian therapies, including reflexology, and you'll have to correct me in all the pronunciation here, Tui Na massage,
Yes.
and later acupressure.
Yes.
She founded Hey You, a multi-award-winning beauty and well-being brand rooted in Chinese medicine. Through this method, she launched her groundbreaking range of well-being products and tools. In 2020, she also founded Hey You Fit, a leading online fitness platform focused on Qigong and mindful healing movement. Katie believes that Chinese medicine holds the key to understanding how the body, mind, and spirit profoundly impact each other. In 2019, she published her best-selling, award-winning book, Yang Shen, The Art of Chinese Self-Healing, where she perfectly distills ancient wisdom and applies it to modern life. Katie, this is so fun.
So nice. God, what a mouthful.
I know. Usually I try to shorten people's bios, but at this point, I don't know. I just love everything you do, and you're such a force. And traditional Chinese medicine has been in the background of my kind of seeking healing journey for the past 20 years. And I did traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture, as we talked about, for fertility. And, I remember studying art history and the Chinese civilization, there's so much wisdom there, talk about advanced wisdom and wisdom keepers. So I'd love to, I guess, find out how you got involved or passionate about Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine.
Yes, because it's an unusual journey for a humble middle-class girl born in North London to have suddenly ended up with everything you've just said. And actually, the way I came across it is the way that many people come across the kind of therapies that you and I talk about a lot, which is through pain. Because normally, especially in Britain, because we have free healthcare in the UK, so and there's pros and cons to that, but we have it. So the problem with free healthcare is that you tend to take it for granted, and so consequently, if the doctor fixes you, then you're okay. Now, the thing is that happened to me is that I had this awful car crash when I was in my early 20s, and that was just one of those things that happened. And I went to my doctor, and they couldn't fix it. It wasn't that they couldn't try, because they did try, but none of the normal remedies that were sort of available at that time, which was kind of the late 1990s, worked. Nothing worked. I was just in excruciating pain. And like most people who suffer, if the standard kind of conventional medicine doesn't do it for you, and you've tried the various different alternatives, that's why I keep doing this, alternatives on the market, then you kind of have to dig deeper to find a solution. And it was pain that took me there, because I was constantly questing to help myself, because I was suffering if I didn't. And the various so-called experts out there who specialize in all the various different things, it just didn't work for me. And so one day, just by weird serendipity, I went into one of those TCM clinics that you often see on the high street, and they often have a little poster in the window saying 10 minutes of massage for £10 or $10. And I thought, you know what? My shoulder hurts so much that I actually don't care at this stage what they do. I don't care what they do to me. I'm in agony. It can't make this any worse. And it just so happened that this incredible doctor practicing was some leading professor from Beijing University. I mean, just this incredibly talented man. And he just did something called gua sha, which people are now aware of through the beauty industry. So the crystal gua shas have become a huge, great trend since lockdown, but the body gua sha slightly less so. But he did it on my shoulder, and the pain went straight away. And I had this kind of absolute epiphany, eureka moment as I was lying there, crying my eyes out in a kind of really strange space of sort of pleasure, pain, happiness, joy, frustration, just kind of all these conflicting emotions, all just kind of surging out of me at once, and sort of been like they'd been pent up for about 8 years of agony, and it all just went sort of in this 10 minutes for 10 quid. And that was it. And I kind of came out of this really humble little shop in North London, and I just had this moment. I thought, that's it. This is what I want to do. I want to study this. What is this? Like this Chinese medicine TCM thing that I've just stumbled into, you know, sort of smelling of strange herbs and doing weird things. And that was it. And I literally left. I went home. I jacked in my job. I jacked in my boyfriend. I moved out. I did. We've been talking about this. I've got a bit of a habit, got a bit of a habit of doing that. So I jacked in my life. I just left my life, and I kind of, as I often do when I get excited about something, I sort of hurled myself at this new amazing thing and just dedicated myself to it, like 100%. And the rest, as they say, is history.
And because we talk and you channel, you just gave me a BaZi reading, which I want you to explain what that is. Very cool. Kind of tied in, ancient Chinese wisdom meets astrology, meets, the organization of the cosmos when you take your first breath here. And that was so fascinating. But knowing your BaZi reading, were you always intuitive, or do you just, for you to just jack in your whole life and pursue this kind of thing?
Yeah. You know what? It's interesting because we were also just talking about matriarchs when we were just talking before. And to anyone listening, if they're not aware, there are what I define as sort of 3 archetypes of the female energy sphere, which is the maiden, the mother, and the matriarch. And the matriarch energy is very underestimated and very underrepresented in society at the moment. Now, I'm very hopeful that this sort of swathe of women such as us and many, many thousands of others are going to change that over the course of the 21st century. But sort of as it stands, that's been a bit poorly represented. But if I knew then what I know now, my life would have been a lot easier to navigate. There was just such a lack of information, which is, I think, why we met, because there was this kind of nuclear force when we started first talking, where it's just like, you get it, we just get it, and it is quite a big topic. And I had no idea about Chinese medicine. I had no idea that I could be psychic. I thought I was psychic, but it was a bit of a weird thing to be. And when you're a child growing up in the 1970s, you don't want to be weird, you want to fit in. And what was normal and here I go again. Right, I'm going to put my hands down. What fitting in? Yeah, I'll keep doing this with you, honestly. It's all this rabbit energy. But okay, so fitting in and being normal mattered in the 1970s and 80s. The beauty stereotypes, the archetypes of what you had to look like, how you had to behave, was very entrenched when I was growing up. And being psychic wouldn't have been something that I would like to have discussed. I mean, I was very sensitive to ghosts. I would always kind of sense strange things. Interestingly, before I had the car crash, I had a really strange kind of premonition, which I ignored, which I wish I blooming hadn't, although it meant that I became a Chinese doctor, so actually I'm glad I didn't. But, all in all, my younger self now would have benefited from knowing the kind of wisdom that you and I have normalized to a large extent by virtue of what it is that we're dedicating our lives to. But now I do know. And it's also something that has to be cultivated. I mean, yes, you can have raw talent. It's a bit like being a chef. So certain people just are inherently good in the kitchen and they can rustle food up fairly effortlessly, but it takes training to be a chef. Mm-hmm. It's not the same thing as rustling up a nice bag bowl. It's not the same thing at all, although they can. But so I went to the College of Psychic Studies as part of my training and studied there for a year and qualified. But actually, the real training was me just doing it and trusting the knowing that's inside your body. You were talking earlier again about that sort of supreme trust. It's funny, and that's what the psychic voice is. It's that inner voice that's inside all of us that we often will just squash and just ignore because it's quiet and it's easily drowned out in this day and age. So easily, you're just permanently distracted. But to go into that still space, which perhaps traditionally would have been held by prayer and the religious space, to just allow the voice to come through, and to trust that the voices are indeed correct. I mean, I'm clairaudient is how I'm described in the business.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. And I guess, yeah, so maybe now is a good time to talk about what the BaZi reading is, if I'm saying that correctly. How maybe your chart got you to know thyself a little better and how to operate in the world, those three questions. And we can, maybe dabble in mine a little bit. But yeah, I think it's so fascinating because I've had a human design person on the podcast, an astrologer is coming on, and all of these tools I'm seeing, it's like spirituality and, here's my air quotes, woo woo, really being supported by science and math of the universe, and it's so resonant when you start to look at the organization of everything at the moment you were born. And it just makes so much sense. And I think the whole healing journey is a remembering of our divinity. And in order to do that, we have to come back into full alignment with who we are as this soul and personality in this body. And all of these things, including this reading that you just gave me, are tremendously helpful, insightful tools and mirrors to get to know ourselves better and to help us realign with our truth.
I mean, absolutely. So I think, just to pick up on what you've just said, the first and foremost word that we need to remember, which is what you've just described, is understanding. So the whole purpose of everything is to understand. Now, and we all know that. So anyone listening to this podcast knows that. And if they didn't know that, probably us just saying it, they've gone, oh yeah, that's true. So it's true. We are here to understand. We're here to learn and to understand that which separated us in the first place, to find our way back to what that was inherently. Now, that's hopefully going to make sense to everyone because it's true. But the weird thing about being born, because we're both 70s babies, like you're right at the end and I'm right at the beginning. But the thing about sort of being born, I think, in the 70s is we were right at the end, in my opinion, this is my opinion, of the muddle. So they talk about the chaos. I'm like, yeah, they should think about the construct of what was going on for the last 2,000 years. So we were at the end of the muddle. We'd killed off the wisdom keepers in various different geopolitical, spiritual, religious kind of like manifestations. But basically, by and large, that's what was going on. So a lot of the wisdom, by the time we came along, just wasn't there. So we didn't know. And you don't know what you don't know. It's that weird thing. Then it's people like us who start kind of like gnawing at there's something that they don't even know what it is. They can't even articulate it themselves. They just know there's something else. But they're being constantly told, no, you're wrong. You're literally told. I've been told many times in my life that I was wrong. I am now refusing to accept that. And my poor children literally have just given up and just go, oh my God, you're always right. I mean, imagine being the child of a psychic. That's like, it's a nightmare. I told you. I said that would happen. I knew that. I told you that would happen. But so to go into the BaZi for a sec, is the first thing about the BaZi, and the only thing about the BaZi, which is the headline, is it's a tool and a vehicle to understanding. And to use a phrase that you used earlier about laser focus. Now, life is about laser focus, because in this day and age now in the 21st century, no longer the 1970s, there is so much choice and so much information and so many opportunities that we never had before, that you need to be really clear about what it is that you want and what it is that you don't want. Because if you are in any shape or form confused about either, chances are you're going to sort of flip-flop between the two and get confused and sad and frustrated, especially in the world of social media, where you only need to go and scroll for 1 second on a feed to be inundated with a load of people doing whatever it is better than you. Now, I've had to be really careful about this because I've obviously tuned out of like a lot of the noise. I mean, I have to, but I've had to tune out even to the point about some other wisdom keepers that I would traditionally watch, because I find that interferes with my feed. Suddenly I'll be listening to, I don't know, Lee Holden, for example, or Kirsty Gallagher, or many of the people who've been on Heal. And, and then I think, oh my gosh, if I listen to them too much, I lose my feed. So this is very much where I sit in my lane with what I do, because I think if I'm in my lane, I am clear, I can hear, and then I can serve and I can give, and I can offer what it is that we all need, which is laser certainty on why we're here, why we feel the way that we do, what it is that we need to do about feeling like that, and how we go about doing that when there are so many choices available to us, and ultimately feeling confident in those choices. Because that's the bit, is when the fear creeps in and nibbles away at the side of us. Oh, there we go. I did a different hand gesture. So it nibbles in at the side, because it does, because it erodes, because fear is the low energy of wisdom. So when you're being wise and true to yourself and you're going, right, so truth, the low frequency of truth is worry, and the low frequency of wisdom is fear. So if you start getting worried and frightened about who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it, you can't be wise or truthful. You can't be in your truth. You can't be in your power, and you can't help yourself and others around you. So it's really important to know exactly who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. And just like the human design or Western astrology or Ayurvedic astrology, the BaZi is, and by the way, that's right. Anybody Chinese speaking I think the way it's pronounced is BaZi. But my pronunciation of Chinese is appalling. So whenever I go to China and I desperately try and speak, they go, what? Because it's very much based on phonetics. And I never, even though it sounds perfect to me. So I just say BaZi. But the BaZi is very much a way of describing with laser clarity yourself. And what you're doing is you're looking at the universal construct based upon the footprint or the blueprint of your genetic coding, which ultimately is the kind of the quantum aspect of the human soul. And it's imprinted in every single one of your trillions of cells. So if you think about the trillions of cells involved in you being who you are, then you've got this one diagram, which is just like amplified to the tune of trillions, which then becomes this incredible force, which is, of course, when you are laser focused on why, what, and how, is incredibly strong. And of course, we go back to the 1970s again, where we were quite weak. You know, trust was gone. We were brought up to trust big organizations because they had our best interests at heart. And then we kind of learned that's not strictly true. And then we were taught that we were powerless because we kind of were. And now we know that that's not true either. So we're in this really amazing moment of awakening right now. And the key to it is understanding that the individual, when they are laser focused on the why, what, and how, is incredibly strong and incredibly powerful. It's a nuclear force all by itself. Club all those people together, care of the internet or social media or whatever community we wish to apply ourselves to, which we now can, just like that, is quite a powerful sea change. And I think I don't really like going into Chinese politics on air, but it's legal to say that the BaZi was banned. It was, and it's now been absolutely reinstated in modern China. But the reason it was banned is because I expect it's powerful stuff. Because my experience of doing BaZis with thousands of people over the years is it is powerful stuff. And because you sort of switch the light on. I mean, we've just done it together. So it makes you feel strong, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it reinforces patterns that are showing up in my life, and themes that are, and we'll go into the organs and the 5 elements here soon, because I think it's so foundational and applies now more than ever, but obviously throughout time. And just these symbols that it's broken down. And then I have this imagery that you described for me too, as you were channeling, that I can hold to, that just really captures the energy of the truth of what you were breaking down for me. And it like resonated so deeply. And the other thing I'll say is, as you know, when you were talking about staying in your own lane, so that your truth is clear and it's not getting muddled by some of these teachers or, other people, that's been a theme that I just want to tell the listener, or just remind the listener. My whole thing is, as I come back to myself in my early 40s and really saw where I abandoned myself, and now I'm like really honing into my truth and my power as a woman. I really tune into my instrument and trust it. Whereas, people that I put on a pedestal, like every person that was a master teacher that I put in heel, I listen to them now, and I take in what resonates with my instrument, my truth, my soul. And that's a majority, because these are my teachers. And then there's going to be something that's like, oh, and then I have a thought that I have a different interpretation of that. Or for me, the truth is slightly different. And so I just would encourage everyone that's listening that we all have this blueprint to ourselves. We are all masters in our own soul's journey, and we all have something to contribute. So if someone is listening to us and going, oh, I wish, I look up to them, it's like, no, we're all looking equally to each other. It's just about coming back to our own truth and alignment with yourself, and tools like the BaZi and or BaZi and astrology and human design and all of these different things, you know, get you back to. But we all have, whether you're a cobbler, you know, or someone who works in the circus, or like whatever your life path job is, you have gifts and talents to align with your truth that is we all need. There's no hierarchy, right? So the more we can tune into our instrument, these amazing bodies of these trillion cells, and align with our truth, the more we can step into our power and contribute in the way we are meant to contribute in this lifetime.
Oh, I mean, yes. I mean, yes, basically is the headline answer. Yes, you are absolutely right. I mean, literally, I feel like when Harry met Sally, I go, yes, okay, because it's so true. Because the thing is, I teach. Obviously, part of what I do is I teach to my community. You know, that's what I love to teach. I learned, first of all, I was healed, and then I learned the art of healing. And then I was so excited about that I started to tell everyone, because I'm a talker and I love talking, can you tell? And so I then became a teacher. So I am a teacher healer, I guess. And then what I've now learned is exactly what you've said, which is I say to my community, the only reason you're listening to me is I just got to this bit before you. But now you've understood it, off you go. Like, tell everyone, you now create your version of what this is, and you share that with your community of people. So, and the amazing thing about the algorithm, which is just the most insane invention, which, can I just say, it was invented by a woman, you know, in the days when it was blooming difficult for women to do anything at all, and yet nonetheless she invented this. Well done. But the point is that thanks to this algorithm, we can now create these micro communities of people orbiting around all the different kind of permutations of the whole. And it's no longer kind of, I don't know, like Fox News or CNN, and it's just like the world in accordance to this narrative. And it's like, well, it's gone. I mean, I know they're still there. Sorry, Fox News. But, you know, I know they're still there broadcasting what they do. But this kind of nuanced stuff is just, it's the stitching in the fabric. And the archetype of that is very much the feminine narrative, not female gender, the feminine narrative, the yin aspect. It's the detail, the subtlety, the gentleness, the complexity, which the patience and the sinews of what it is that we're doing impact what's going on. And that's what's going to create the color of the world. And I think what's interesting is, prior to this explosion of this fabulous understanding of the inner psyche, which has only really just rebirthed itself really in this century. I mean, it really wasn't, certainly when I was growing up, it was like no one knew what the hell I was going on about, you know, and I was just talking about aromatherapy or something, you know, it's like, what's that, you know? And I was a big environmentalist in my, like, I still am, but, you know, and everyone just thought I was weird, you know, just like, oh, you're a hippie. And like, what are you talking about? This is the earth, you know, people have caught up. But what's happened is there's been a sort of generalization of humanity that's gone on sort of over the process of globalization in the 20th century. So it's become a little bit uniform. So it's no longer get on a plane and, I don't know, I mean, I was in New York just before Christmas. Oh, so great with my kids. But, you know, it's not radically different to London. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not. I mean, it is, but it's not, because it's the same shops and it's the same kind of restaurants. It's the same kind of people, slightly nuanced. But, you know, 150 years ago, it's like mind-blowingly different. So what's happened is there's a sort of homogenization that's gone on in the global narrative. But within that is this incredible explosion of uniqueness that's kind of like nuancing its way, but it's all sitting in the energy. And at the moment, and as I say to my mainly ladies in my feed, is that the thing about energy is you don't see this, you feel it. You know it's true. You feel the frequencies going on around you. So it's not visual. It's not like, I don't know, I went to Japan 100 years ago and there was a woman in a kimono looking different. It's not like that now. I go to Japan, everyone looks exactly, you know, they're dressed in exactly the same way as I am. So, but it's the feeling that you get with the uniqueness of the individual souls that's now happening as we're starting to just draw ourselves together, because souls start to form. You can see it happening. It's starting to take form. So perhaps what was slightly wispy when you and I were going through sort of our early early sort of late teens, early 20s into our 30s we go, it was wispy, but it's now starting to kind of create form. And now that form is starting to become like laser. You used the word laser earlier and it keeps coming back. It's like laser sharp power. And every single person listening to this podcast or engaging with this content or just kind of starting to challenge things and going, well, does it have to actually be like this? And the answer is, well, it really genuinely cannot be, sorry, here I go again, be like this, because if it carries on being like this, then it's not going to exist at all. So it's a really amazing moment to be alive and really amazing moment to understand the truth of who you are.
I totally agree. And it's rooted, it's like we're clearing the lens, and then like the ancient wisdom of Chinese medicine and the elements and this simplicity that now thousands of years later, we can go back to this like just coded truth, which I want to get into, because all the modernity and technological advances and everything, like this wisdom is still true and still applies to this human instrument and the soul and the connection of it all. So I'd love for you just, and it's wild, it's mind-blowing that this is like the truth it's eternal, right? It's going to last.
You can't kill it.
You can't kill it.
This is the thing that just before we go into it, what I love is that, you know, they can burn us at the stake. They can put dunce caps on us and march us through the streets, and, you know, and they can do all of this stuff, but you can't ultimately destroy energy. And truth is an energy. You can't destroy it because it's just simply going to come back because it's true.
Yeah.
And I learned that the hard way in life, funny enough, because before I had these big epiphany, once, you know, I did tell a lie. You know, I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. I had an affair, and I don't mind saying it because it's, you know, it's okay. It's in the open. I'm not proud of it, but I learned it was heartbreaking actually. And, you know, and I don't regret anything, but I learned a very valuable lesson about it, because at the time you just think, well, if no one sees you and if you don't discuss it and if it's kind of illicit and quiet and discreet and hidden, then what's the harm and what's the problem? But actually the lesson that I very painfully learned through the entire horrendous process was actually lies have a habit of impacting what's going on because it's not true. And therefore the truth will set you free. So the truth exists, whether you articulate it or whether you don't, it's still the truth. And I learned that the hard way. And it's a very valuable lesson to learn things the hard way, because it then means that you start to realize that actually what you should do is learn things the easy way, which takes us back to the BaZi, because that's what it teaches you, is to, because you understand the truth, you can then learn the easy way, because we are in Earth School. So we are here to learn one way or the other. So you can either do it the easy way or do it the hard way. And I always say this to my community and go, you've got two ways to learn the truth. Okay, the easy way or the hard way. And everyone sits there obviously wanting to learn the easy way, but we don't.
We don't. Yeah.
We don't. We learn the hard way. Me too. And I was thinking, God, I've learned that lesson the hard way. So now I'm learning I try as best I can to learn the easy way.
Yeah, the truth is so scary for people sometimes, because we are expected to, we've like just not allowed humanity, like not allowed for us to learn through mistakes. And, but you know, what I find is, yeah, the truth will set you free regardless if it's your choice or not. Like if you're trying to shroud the truth or hide in the darkness or lie, like it's, that energy is going to blow it all up at some point, you know, in some way. So I highly recommend you start to have compassion for yourself and your mistakes, and, you know, deal with the truth before it deals with you.
Yeah.
You know,
and sorry to say, the lesson that I, from that entirely painful and honest thing, because it's, you know, just to be honest about it, is that there's two ways to deal with it, which is regret or remorse. And I urge everyone to try remorse, which is where I went, because what do you do with that when you've made a mistake and you think, this is not my higher self right now, this is a lower self, I call them lower self moments. It was a lower self moment, and there's reasons for it, but it was a lower self moment. Regret is a very dead energy because it just traps you energetically in a cycle, whereas remorse was what actually, when you read that beautiful bio at the beginning, and I was listening to it all, and I thought, do you know what, that entire bio, that when it's sort of, you know, when Katie started the Hey You method, blah, 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 it was like, yeah, that came out of that was remorse in action, with me going, I am now going to prove to myself that I am a much, much better person than that expression of myself. I'm going to pick myself up. I'm going to accept the fact that this was not a great moment for me, and I am going to make amends. And it was and look what's happened. And then boom, up it's all come again. But it came out of a place of extreme pain, just like the gua sha on my shoulder. In came pain again, my greatest teacher. Like,
and I'm
don't send me
so
two more painful lessons. I'm kind of okay with it. I've got the message.
we're done with pain. We're done with pain.
I'm okay
Give
with
us a break. But just thank you for your vulnerability and honesty, because that gives other people permission. And then, you know, come to COVID and this cancel culture and this fear, pour gasoline on this. We already had, you know, people hid their humanity in the shadows because we've got this, you know, I don't know if it's from the 1950s or whatever, but we have to be perfect and everything on the exterior, and nobody's human. We've just killed our humanity. So people make bigger mistakes, and then they have bigger darkness, and just bigger shit goes down. So just that act, what you just did of sharing and showing that once you do make amends, have remorse. By the way, when people don't heal from cancer, Joan Borisenko talks about this in Heal, and she's been doing this holistic healing work in cancer clinics for 40 plus years. She said it always came back to holding on to regret or resentment. So regret is not forgiving yourself, and resentment is not forgiving someone else. So for anyone listening, this is the work that's going to keep you healthy. It's like really forgiving yourself of these mistakes and these lower self moments, making amends, having remorse, and moving forward to set yourself free to this next greater version of yourself. But we have to embrace our humanity, and you just gave us an example of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh my God, and so true. I mean, absolutely. It's just these lovely life truths. They are correct. I mean, the thing is, the way I like to describe it, just kind of, and I'll hook it back to the BaZi in a sec, is Dolores Cannon says, you know, we're in Earth School, and I love that, so I kind of use it. So, but I quote her, so it's okay. So Dolores Cannon says, "You're in Earth School." I'm like, yes, we are. And the thing about Earth School, I've got kids, and they're at school, and they make mistakes. Like, you know, my son's nearly got kicked out of his school twice, you know, and that's okay, because he's picked himself up like me, because I've sort of shown him what to do. So it's okay. Okay, it's not great, but it's very unlikely for any human being. We're not perfect. The whole point of the human being is, if you're in Earth School, you're not perfect. That's why you're in Earth School. You're here to gain perfection. And normally it's our greatest triumphs are the hardest things that we've had to endure through Earth School. And as the Dalai Lama would say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And if that's making you spiritually stronger, because you are navigating Earth School with high alchemized energetic states, which you and I've touched on, but it's a wonderful aspect of Chinese sort of medical theory, which is, so I'll go into it now. So basically, the thing about Chinese medicine is, it's just like, I entered into it because I had a bad shoulder. And so I was just like, literally, I don't care what you do, just do something. And when I then became an acupuncturist several years later, people said that to me. It was literally used to be, I've tried everything, and my friend says, why don't you try acupuncture? So we were like the last resort, just stick some weird pins in me and do something, because I'm desperate. And I was that person. It's true. And the thing is that by this point, I'd learned a thing or two, and I'd understood that although people don't necessarily understand Chinese medicine, because it's not something you learn at school, it's not like, it's increasingly inherent in our cultures now. It's certainly not when I was a child. That there's this kind of pyramid of health, which is the way I describe it. You have physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain. And what I then understood about, and for those just listening, it's like just think of a pyramid. Okay, so physical is at the bottom, emotional in the middle, and spiritual at the top. And what I love about Chinese medicine is that it addresses all of them. It understands the integrity and the ecosystem of the human body, that it is a symbiosis of physical and spiritual. And the BaZi understands that, because what the BaZi does is it takes you all the way through this kind of cosmic dance, which literally can just like dance you through your physical pain, your emotional pain, and your spiritual meaning of life, and that everything is in a complete integration with the other. You cannot be healthy if you are not spiritually on point. You cannot be healthy if you have aches and pains in your body, blocking the flow of joy that should be that we have the birthright to feel as we experience the privilege of being in Earth and in Mother Nature, and the sweetness that perhaps we've forgotten in the modernization process, that life can actually offer us if we just stop for a second and listen to some birdsong, or, you know, enjoy a nice cup of tea for 5 seconds without being interrupted, you know, things like that. And the BaZi will allow you to just dance your way through this beautiful dance of truth and understanding, so that you navigate school, not under the lies of the 20th century that you can buy your way out of this misery. As my father said, money just gives you a better class of misery, and anyone wealthy would agree. Anyone not wealthy would go, I'm not so sure about that. But I've done BaZis for literally, there's some Hollywood A-listers on my roster, which I will never divulge, but I'm telling you, they are rich, they are beautiful, they apparently have it all, and they're in a complete mess. So because we spent 2 hours unpicking them, and they felt a lot better afterwards. So if the Hollywood royalty haven't got it sorted, you know, like I'm sure some of them have, but the ones that I'm thinking of, then there's hope for everyone else too, because it's not true that you buy your way out of Earth School. You don't. You just simply don't.
Yeah.
And Earth School is here to teach us the valuable lessons which ultimately enable us to spiritually grow. Mm. That's what we're here to do. But the great thing about Chinese medicine is that it understands all of that. And because it understands the relationship of what we call sublimation, which is sublimation is something that's formless, that can become liquid, that can become physical, and vice versa. So you can have a pain in your shoulder that you can get rid of with a breathing technique, if you apply your greatest healing tool to the problem, which is, of course, your mind.
Mm-hmm. You're understanding.
Now, therein lies the solution and the problem, because, of course, this is indeed true, as your body language is revealing. But because you're like squirming in excitement, going, yes, she's right. I know. I talked all about this. I know. We're like, I know, you know. But the thing is, it's all very well, but we live in an age where, thanks to this amazing algorithm, if used incorrectly, it's like our greatest asset and our worst nightmare, because we're distracted. So I, as a mother of children, can vouch for the fact that my powers of imagination are vastly superior to my 15-year-olds, because they have had iPads their whole life. And they think their big sister is weird because she spent 4 whole years of her entire existence without one. They can't get their head around what misery that must have been. But we used our imaginations as kids. And kids now don't, because Disney Pixar has done such a great job of creating it for us, and so's AI now, that we don't have to bother. But then you flip it back again and go, all right, AI, Disney, Pixar, show us some really, really fantastic things to look at, and then we'll get the message. And they do, with things like Frozen 2 and all the billions of other amazing stuff that comes out of there. So there is great stuff, but we have to use your mind. You have to focus your mind. You have to develop your mind. It is a muscle, and it's your greatest healing tool. And the way that you do that is, as we say, go into the BaZi, get the laser focus on who you are and why you are and what it is you're supposed to be doing, and get that soul path on your horizon and go.
Yeah. Amazing. And we only have a little bit more time, so I want to just talk, because my next passion, that my next film, which I had to be patient for to come through, and now I've got the fire and the wood and the laser focus to explore, but I think you can give a lot of insight here. What's always fascinated me is about organ systems processing different emotions, and I think this is rooted in Chinese medicine, and then how the elements process. So can you talk to us about the emotional body, how organs process and digest emotions, which they are, and then how the elements are involved?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, yes, one of my all-time favorite subjects. So thank you for letting me speak about it. So, and also actually, as far as I can, as far to my knowledge, all ancient traditions say the same thing, more or less. So it's a bit like a language, you know, there's slight variations, but basically they say the same thing, which is, we in the West have love language, and we talk about the heart. We understand that the heart pumps blood around the body, yes, but it also feels love. And we know that, okay, we have Valentine's Day very soon, and it talks just about giving hearts to each other. So love is expressed through the heart. And yet what's happened over time is that we've lost the understanding that other organs also have emotions. Now, in Chinese medicine, what happens, and I can't speak for the other disciplines because it's not my specialization, but in Chinese medicine, there are 12 organs in Chinese medicine that basically control everything. Everything in your body is controlled by these organs. They have a language, and they all talk to each other, and it's all commanded by the heart. But it's a bit like a game of chess. Some organs have got kind of slightly above the food chain. Now, that would reflect itself also in kind of Western medicine, like e.g., if you removed a liver, you die. If you removed a gallbladder, you are likely to live. And millions of people have had their gallbladder taken out. So some organs quite clearly like are slightly up the pecking order than others in terms of the survival narrative. So what we understand is that there are 5 of these 10 key organs which really power through, which is when you're having a quick 3-minute introduction to this, that's what I would sort of start with. The heart, which we know about, so we're kind of on safe ground there. But then we also talk a lot about the lungs, the spleen, which is kind of the spleen, pancreas, the liver, and the kidney. And each of those organs do all the same things that we understand them to do in terms of their responsibilities. But in Chinese medicine, they are like ministers in a government, and they have this massive array of responsibilities. And then they also have what we call collaterals, which are channels, which simply the channels, which is when people have acupuncture, we stick pins in you, those are the channels which relate to the organs. And these channels are like literally like a railway network all over your body. So there's certain junction points, like in England, Birmingham is right bang in the middle. So Birmingham city centre for the train station in our country is like an epicenter of connections. Okay, I don't know what it is in America, but that's what it is here. So what happens is these organs can all talk to each other. They're having a non-stop communication, all controlled by the heart. And what then happens is all of your emotions are reflected in those organs, which means if you're feeling diseased in some shape or in your emotional or what we would call your mental health, then we in Chinese medicine as acupuncturists can immediately locate that to the relevant organ and go, that's anger, that's your liver. Oh, that's grief, that's your lung. Oh, that's worry, that's your spleen. Okay. That's fear, that's your kidney. The minute we can do that, we can then start to treat you. But then what happened to me in that little journey was I'd learned all of that. I started treating everyone. Oh my God, this is amazing. And then I learned this other thing, which was, hang on a minute, if I explain that to people, then they can do it for themselves. They don't even need to have acupuncture. Not if any acupuncturist listening. Obviously, this is now where I took the whole thing into my comparison to dentistry, because we in the West have grown up in the 20th century with teeth care. So you brush your teeth every day, twice a day, you should. You floss, you do all this stuff. And then you see the hygienist. And you also see the dentist because you work preventatively. And therefore, what happens is you fully expect to have your teeth for your whole life, as opposed to, say, my grandmother who had dentures by the age of 60. Well, I'm 52. So that means in 8 years' time, last century, I'd be expecting dentures. Oh, my God, can you imagine? Whereas all I obsess about is how white my teeth are, because that's what I do. So the point is that your healthcare, thanks to Chinese medicine and all the other medical disciplines, but the one I love the most is you are able to self-treat. It doesn't mean you don't go and see your therapist. Absolutely. And it doesn't mean you don't go and see your Western doctor. Absolutely. But you take onus of doing simple things on a daily basis, little tiny things which are so simple, like brushing your teeth. Because if you do the right thing for a few minutes a day, it's going to safeguard you the rest of your life. And that was why I wrote Yang Sheng. Because when I had this absolute epiphany moment where I thought, oh my God, Chinese medicine is so fundamentally amazing that it will take you all the way to the laser meaning of life of you, the individual person, this soul incarnation. But also it can take you all the way over here where it will teach you just simple, basic things like mind-blowing fact. 80% of human problems are related to an impairment of your circulation in some shape or form. So if the circulation is compromised, 80% of illness. It's just like plaque on your teeth. I'm not saying that if you shake your body every day, you won't get sick, but it's like Colgate, saying brush your teeth every day and you're going to really help fight tooth decay. But you must also go and see your dentist. That's exactly the message. And it's what took me out of my acupuncture clinic and into talking to amazing people like you, going, there is this amazing epiphany of message over here, which is prevention. Just doing a couple of things every day and not getting sick is going to help you get better. And it all roots off this basic understanding that circulation is key and that what's dominating this circulation are your key organs, which have this amazing narrative. And all you have to do is look after them.
So give us some of those few tips. Like what are a couple of tips?
God, okay.
And then you got to pick up the Yang Sheng book. I imagine they're more in there.
Okay. But, so this is where I'm royally busted, because you know that I've got my pajama bottoms on underneath my glamorous top because I thought, you know what, I don't care. So the easiest thing in the world, okay, is this. I call it the shimmy. And you just literally just shimmy from side to side, because energy goes like this, boom, 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 boom. And we know that energy is everything. And we know that the physical body follows the energy. So when you're feeling sluggish and tired, it's because we're sedentary. So what then happens is everything gets still, because human bodies are designed to kind of like, move around basically, and we kind of don't. We sort of sit there doing this, getting stressed. Whereas in the old days, we sort of rummage about looking for things. So basically you can do it just sitting. And if you're sitting and that feels uncomfortable, do this one, which is basically imagine you've got a piece of dental floss going like someone's pulling you from side to side, like this. And this is really good. And then if you're starting to feel that you can move a bit, you could then at this point stand up. And what I say to people is just do this like every time you go to the loo. Just when you get up to go to the loo, just give yourself a minute to shimmy the body, okay? Because that is going to get the circulation moving. It's like a snow globe. So what happens when you're sedentary is all the problems are heavy because they feel heavy. They're heavy in nature, it's heavy energy, and they settle. And they settle wherever your body happens to store things. And that could be genetic. It's partly to do with your BaZi and how your body organizes itself. Because basically bodies do the same thing, but they're also unique. They're like fingerprints. They're unique, but they're all the same. So it's the same thing. So body's circulation needs smooth. So doing this does that. Now, if you want to take it deeper, you could start doing the next thing, which is tapping. So just take a loosely clenched fist, or if you're not feeling very well, fingertips, and you just tap over the body, over the heart, over the chest, over the back of the head. And then what happens is your body will naturally want to breathe more. Okay, so then you start doing a bit of conscious breathing, because then you just start to do the really simple breath, which is conscious breathing, which is breathe slowly in, linger at the top of the breath, breathe slowly out, sigh, why not? And then linger at the bottom of the breath. And by doing so, we've only just done half the body. If you just stop there, right,
I'm like vibrating.
Yeah, just that. We haven't done it. We haven't got started yet. I could teach you like 5 hours of Qigong right now. But that, I always say to my community, do the simple things well. And that's all you need to do. You can recreate the wheel and do, 10 hours of yoga retreats, and you can do all of these amazing stuff that's on offer. But do the simple things well. Brush your teeth. We all brush our teeth. But we don't think about our teeth are in our bodies. It's so illogical. It's like they are your body. So you do that bit, and then you take your makeup off if you've got makeup on, and you brush your hair. But you don't then spend another 5 minutes in the evening just getting your circulation rectified. And yet, by doing so, what you're doing is you're addressing every single collateral or channel within the body, which is attributed to these power organs within your body, and it just moves everything around. And therefore, 80% of the problems can be addressed just like brushing your teeth. And yes, all right,
Is that Qigong? Is this like the movement
yes. This is the absolute basic Qigong. So Qigong is, again, like dentistry. You can go all the way to a Qigong master, and they will be like the highest dentist in the universe who can do all these incredible things. But you still need a toothbrush. And the thing is, there's no point going off to some amazing master and learning all these incredible things if you're not using the toothbrush. So my little lane in all of this, because, who am I, this girl from North London, said at the beginning, when there's incredible masters out there like Mantak Chia, and I mean, there's loads of them. And then there's me. Okay, so what am I doing? Like this British woman, who's just kind of discovered a thing or two and starts crapping on when you think, well, hang on, there's other people that know more than you. And I'm like, yeah, but, I've lived in the Western world, and I've had my fair share of ups and downs, and I've learned that the simple things work. So I'm just going to talk to the audience that want to listen to that and go, actually, I'm also a Western person who's had my fair share of ups and downs. And I actually think I haven't got time for loads of stuff. I can't go and study with a Chinese master. I don't have the time or the money or the patience to do any of that. But actually, this bit makes sense. Any more than I don't particularly want to learn to be a dentist, but I do brush my teeth. And that's really the message in the book. And really the BaZi, so the book's the beginning of the journey, taking you into this incredible world of like the wonders of Chinese medicine, which is this gift to the earth. It is the greatest treasure, in my opinion, because your health is everything. Life is not worth living if you don't feel full of health and vitality and joy and purpose and all the things we've discussed. So there is this country, which I know lots of people have opinions about, good and bad, like all countries. And yet the gift that is there is this treasure trove of wisdom, which has come down, as you say, through the millennia, which ultimately originated with the Wu, which is where the word woo-woo comes from, because they were called the Wu, which was the women who were there, sending this down through word of mouth, which has been killed off, pretty well, and yet nonetheless is still here, because it's there, it's hidden in plain sight, and there's just enough of it that survived for people like you and me to kind of like bring it out to full volume and go, oh my God, amplify, everyone needs to know this. And that's really where we've gone to. And so the BaZi really is the kind of the quintessence right down here in the food chain, going, okay, this is the fingerprint of your soul over here, which gives you the why to an absolute pinpoint accuracy. But you can expand it all out over here to actually just shaking and tapping and breathing. You're going to feel better. And who doesn't want to feel better?
Amen, sister. And we are blonde woo descendants from the ancient line. But thank you. I know you have to go. We need to have a second conversation about the elements, because I just lost my everything material in a fire. You had to move out of your house this morning because of a flood and terrain and then water. And we've been massively affected by 2 of the 5 elements. And so just thank you for your time and your energy, and we'll do this again because you're so fun to talk to. Where can people find you?
So Instagram, Katie Brindle. And my website, Katie Brindle. Basically, Google Katie Brindle and I pop up.
Okay.
Awesome. Me everywhere, talking away.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. And we'll keep in touch and have good luck with everything.
Thank you, Kelly, darling. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Heal with Kelly podcast. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. And make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. Oh, and if you found this episode inspiring, please rate, review, and share Heal with Kelly so that we can grow our audience and reach more people. We truly appreciate it. Lots of love.